The use of insulin to control diabetes has long been a part of the medical community around the globe for a long period of time. And the common way of delivery has been, for the most part, through a needle. But the idea of inhalable or inhaled insulin is one that has been around for a while, but maybe not necessarily with the growth on the market that a lot of people or companies would have expected to see. One company believes that it may be closing in on a breakthrough. Michael Castagna is CEO of Mankind, a biopharma company that is looking to perfect that delivery. And he also just happens to be a Wharton grad. And it's a pleasure to have Michael joining us on the show right now. Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you. Give us, I guess, a little bit of the background first on the history of inhaled insulin and really where when it started and the growth level we've seen up until this point.
Sure. So the technology that the platform is based on started in 1991, so almost 26 years ago, and Mankind itself was put together through several companies by the founder Alfred E. Mann. And Al Mann had a vision. He built MiniMed, which wound up becoming Medtronic Diabetes, and he made his money off there, and then invested in Afrezza. Because the main thing he saw was that the problem with insulin pumps or insulin in general was the PK profile, so how fast the drug gets in your body, how fast it comes out. Your body naturally produces insulin when you eat, and it's in your body, it takes about 2 hours to clear a meal. But when you inject yourself with insulin, it's typically in your body for 5 to 7 hours. So that was the problem that Al Mann was solving for. So he worked on this inhaled insulin. He put almost $1 billion of his own money, took the company public, and continued to get there. It took a while to get approved because it was a drug-device combo. So when you work with the FDA on a drug-device combination, sometimes there's a little more complications than people expect because these aren't always easy. You got to get the device right and you got to get the drug right, and then combine them both.
So the biggest...
Long story...
Oh, I'm sorry. Finish it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, long story short, they got approved, and they originally tried to launch through a partner, and that partnership didn't go well. And the company got the product back last year, which is when I joined to help turn it around.
And so the biggest benefit of delivering insulin in this manner is what?
From our perspective, inhaler is the least reason to use it. What's really important is that it gets in and out of your body fast. So if you can, and you take your insulin shot, it usually takes about 20, 30 minutes before it kicks in. It takes about 2 hours before it hits its peak effect, and then it's in your body for 4 to 6. With our drug, when you inhale, it starts working in a few minutes. It peaks in 30 to 45 minutes, right when your meal's peaking, and it's out of your body in 1.5 to 3 hours. So it's a very different way when you need to regulate your sugars when you eat. It really helps you get control of your disease.
How much growth have you seen with this type of product up until this point?
Yeah. So we got it back. There was no promotion for a while. So as you know, sometimes pharmaceuticals are promotion responsive, and we put our own sales force out there in February of this year. We've seen consistent growth week over week, quarter over quarter, and so we've now surpassed where the previous company had launched. We've done this on a lot fewer resources. They probably spend well over $200 million. We spend a little over $30 million, and got a better response. So I think we're pretty excited. You may or may not have seen yesterday we just raised $61 million from some new institutional investors. And we're excited because that really provides the capital to continue to move this drug in the right direction.
And this is for both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, correct?
Correct.
We're talking with Michael Castagna, who is CEO of Mankind. Your comments are welcome at 844-WHARTON, 844-942-7866 is the number, or at BizRadio111, or my Twitter account, which is at DanLoney21. I was reading a story that I guess the FDA had approved a new label for the drug recently. When you think about the marketing of it, what does a new label do for the potential of a drug?
Yeah, so we're very excited about the label change. It took a little over 2.5 years to get that done from the time it was approved to do the new study and get that submitted to the FDA. And so we waited a long time. And what we were looking for in the label change was really three things. One, there was a statement in there that said just because the drug gets in the body faster doesn't mean it works any faster.
Right.
And we've known it works faster, but there was an anomaly in the one study that was done that we've corrected, and that's subsequently resulted in the label change. The second thing that was confusing out there when people started the drug is they have to dose up. It's not like you inject yourself and then you inhale, and it's a one-for-one conversion. Your body changes every day, your stress changes every day, therefore your insulin needs to change every day. So It's really helping people understand how do you dose the products. We changed the dosing information section. And then the final part was really putting in the curve of how fast each dosage works. So it comes in 3 different dosage forms. And now you can really see that the smallest unit works in about 30 minutes and it's out of your body in about an hour and a half. And at the larger dose, for example, if you're going to eat pizza, you may want to take a larger dose. And if your sugars aren't where they need to be in 2 hours, you may need to take another dose. Just like your natural pancreas would, if you kept eating and having cocktails and hors d'oeuvres with friends, your body will keep producing insulin. And so we got to really get to a mindset where you can start to get real-time control with your disease. So that's really where... Yeah.
So to a degree, I mean, this is an evolution in terms of being able to deliver the medicine to deal with diabetes. And like many things, the innovation of taking insulin delivery from where it has traditionally been over the last 50, 60 years to where potentially you want to take it now. I mean, it feels like it's part of the natural process of innovation within the healthcare area.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a frustrating disease for a long time. I started my career working in HIV, and we made tremendous progress over the last 20 years in that area. And when I look at diabetes, we've had new drugs. We've had 40 new drugs for type 2 patients. We've had new analog insulins. We've had pumps. And the reality is the outcomes that patients experience are not that much better. We still have the same percent of people on insulin at goal for 20 years. 70% of the people taking their medicine aren't reaching their goals. And so we have to think about this disease differently. And I'm very excited. I think the technology that's coming along with a product like ours at the same time, getting ready to expand, is just a great opportunity. You can now see your sugar every 5 minutes, every minute if you want, on your iPhone, on your Android device. And now you can see when you eat what the response is. And now you have a drug that starts working within 10, 12 minutes. It really gives you a different feedback loop than you've ever had in your life.
How important
about the future?
How important a component is the digital side to it, as you kind of alluded to, with everybody having a smartphone of some kind right at their fingertips?
I personally think this is one of probably this is the biggest devastating disease we face in this country. It's probably one of the most expensive diseases in the healthcare system. And if people can just adopt how to monitor their sugars like they adopted an iPhone in terms of just, I never thought my mother would have an iPhone, and she uses one every day.
Yes.
If they can start using their iPhone and just like Fitbit and just saying, there's my sugar, let me fix it, that's going to be phenomenal for society and patients. And we know there's very long-term complications when you have high sugars, and really just having something that gets your disease under control is beneficial. For me, it's whatever's working, that's great, but make sure you're getting your disease under control. We think we're part of the solution.
Yeah.
We think this label change really helps us have a better communication.
Well, let me ask you this, because in researching the company and researching the issue as well, I saw some commentary by people that called this a sinking business, and they're looking at it, I think, from the business and the market perspective. When you hear something like that, how do you respond?
I think the easy response is talk to our constituents who've used our product. I mean, we have thousands of people out there. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on YouTube. They share their personal health records on the internet every day. The reason I took this job wasn't because of people's comments like that. There's plenty of those out there. You got to talk to the patients who've used the drug and learned how to use the drug, and you fundamentally changed their lives. I've done this a long time. I'm a pharmacist by training. I can tell you that I rarely have seen a patient advocacy for a single drug to survive. The patients are what drove me here, and they were keeping me here every day. 98% of consumers on insulin and not on insulin, type 1 and type 2 patients, do not even know there's products on the market. It's really, really critical that they know how to fight for their health, that they know there's options out there. But 98%. So when people say it's a sinking ship, well, look, if we had spent $100, $200 million launching this ourselves and we weren't successful, hey, you might be able to criticize that. But we spent really a seventh of what our previous partner launched it with. And so when you think about, we've been able to surpass their best result with 7 times the resources. I think it's really been a capitalization challenge more than anything. And we've done all the research, very confident in the future, and we're very excited. We know people want the drug. They just need to be aware it's out there, and I think doctors want to be comfortable that the company was going to be here.
Right.
And so the capital raise we just did yesterday really helps bring that confidence into the future, and we're excited with the label change, and new money coming in, it really helps us put the rest of the information into the marketplace.
Michael Castagna is the CEO of Mankind. We're talking about inhaled insulin. Your comments are welcome at 844-WHARTON, 844-942-7866. To the phones we go. Minoka, Illinois. Luigi is on the phone. Luigi, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really have questions. I just pretty much wanted to give a shout out to Mike. I actually met him out in Chicago, and he was him and Dame Dash was showing my son the drug and how quick it worked, and it was just amazing seeing this product work that quick. And I can pretty much understand what he's going through, because this was quite some time ago, and my son's still trying to get this drug approved through his doctor. So, I mean, this guy is going through a lot of roadblocks, and, I just wanted to get a shout out because, the world needs to know about this drug. I mean, it's amazing what this guy is doing with this company, and it's amazing how this drug works.
All right, Luigi, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I guess, Michael, that brings up another topic which we've talked on this show about from time to time is the process of taking a drug from early stages to actual approval, and the length of time that it actually takes to get that, which, it's not an overnight process in any way, shape, or form, and in many cases it can be a 10 to 20 year process.
Yeah, no, I mean, you take this company, 26 years. The drug launched, got approved 3 years ago, right? So 3 years of investment, $2.9 billion. We built a manufacturing plant. That's a lot of investment for one drug, right? You got to take that risk, which leads into the whole challenge we all face in society of drug pricing and managed care and reimbursement. And Luigi, I think, is a good example where, when you didn't do some of the right studies on pharmacoeconomics and pre-positioning in the marketplace, the payers didn't know about the product when it came out, right? And so they didn't know how to react, and the label didn't give them the information they needed. And so, they're catching up. But we've been able to get some coverage at Express Scripts and Anthem on some great health plans. But the world has changed on reimbursement. You used to develop a drug and solve an unmet need, and the health plans would cover it right away in the first year. Now they've changed. They block you for the first year. And they tell you to come in and talk, and then you negotiate pricing, and then they start opening up formulary access. So that's really where even we've been, is we've been out there over last year, and we've been able to work with some payers. And I can just tell you, one major payer called me yesterday saying, "Hey, congratulations on the label change and the new fundraise. We look forward to talking to you further about everything." So it's amazing how a tide changes, right, with some small incremental changes in the label. Start to open up the conversation again. But the world's competitive, and I think that's one of the things, as people think about drug pricing, it's always a delicate topic. And, we see a lot of restrictions out there by payers anymore on new drug launches, and this drug was no different. We're slowly clearing them out. As you know, things don't move as fast as anybody in the world wants, but I think the dialogue with the payers is really going really well.
Well, you mentioned the cost element to it, and that's obviously something that has many consumers worried about that. How much of a concern, or how much of that is in your mind as the development of these drugs are going forward and as they start to head out to the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I think as an industry, we probably got a little bit far away from the cost economic of products. And part of what people don't always understand is you got a lot of middlemen in the chain. So, for example, wholesalers want double-digit discounts just to distribute your drug. That was never true years ago.
Right.
PBMs want high admin fees just on the price of the drug, so they have an incentive to keep high-priced drugs on formulary. And I worked on biosimilars and trying to bring low-cost drugs to market, and it didn't work. I've tried to save the healthcare system money, so I think it's just you got to understand the economics of everything, and you got between a PBM and a pharmacy and a wholesaler, everyone needs to make their fair profit along the value chain, right. Which makes it difficult when you're trying to bring down drug costs. And so there's no right or wrong solution. I just think the U.S. does subsidize the world's R&D engine, and I also believe we subsidize a lot of the U.S. government reimbursed patients, and I think that's just the way the system's been built. And I know it's hard to undo something that's been built over 20 years, but when you think about Medicaid, we barely make any money on Medicaid in this country.
Yeah.
When it comes to the drug industry, right, because of how those formulas have been built over the years. And so I'm not here to defend or support the issue. I think it's an issue we have to deal with in society.
Michael Castagna is CEO of Mankind, a pharma company in the world of inhaled insulin. 844-WHARTON is the number to give us a call with your comments or your questions. 844-942-7866. Or if you can't get your phone, you can send us a comment via Twitter, and we'll bring it up on the show that way at BizRadio111, BIZ Radio 111, or my Twitter account, which is at DanLoney21. From what I read, you're also starting to the process of marketing this medicine overseas right now. How different is that working overseas in an element like this compared to here in the U.S.?
It's very different. I mean, you just take when we first, the pricing is very different to our earlier comment. In the U.S., you have a lot of people, a lot of insurance coverage. You go to places like India, people don't have insurance coverage. They buy 7 pills for a week, and then they come back and buy another 7 pills. Yeah. So it's the same thing with insulin, right? Are they going to buy a 90 cartridge count box, or do you actually have to make 30 count sleeves, and then they buy them in 30 count increments where every 7 to 10 days they're coming back in to buy insulin? So you just got to think about the world very differently as you go into other markets. China just came out this week and said they'll accept probably more ex-US to ex-Chinese data. And so that we think will accelerate drug filings in China, so we're excited about that market. But our man had a vision, which was to get this product around the world to help people with diabetes. He really thinks this will be he thought this would be one of the biggest brands in the history of pharmaceuticals. And I think this is a huge pandemic that we face around the world, and our job is to make sure that we get this product to everyone out there. So we're excited. We just presented a few weeks ago, kind of giving you the highlight of the next few countries we expect to file in. We expect to be able to file in about 50% of the world's population over the next 12 months, and we're on the cusp of announcing. We did a partnership in Brazil, and that should be filing within the next week or two as well. So we're excited about that.
And as you mentioned, there's obviously there's the medicinal part of this with the actual drug, but there's also, from a degree, the technology on this with the delivery device and the inhalers themselves. Take us through that for a second, because I would imagine that's kind of a very interesting piece to this as well, in terms of developing the proper device to be able to allow people to get this medicine into their system.
Yeah, no, I think people take for granted when you see a device. It's not like you make a little plastic toy and you put it out there. You got to make sure the plastic resins are right. You got to make sure the aerodynamics are right. You got to get a lot of good standards with the FDA to make this thing perfect. And if you think about the original inhaled insulin, had a very different profile in terms of how it works in your body, but the device itself was about as tall as 2 water bottles. And then even our first generation device was the size of an iPhone. And now we've gotten it down to, really about 3 inches, fits in your pocket. And so it's really changed the technology, the innovation, the engineering. I mean, one of the things I would tell you is Al Mann was a true device engineer. He worked on the pacemaker. He worked on the cochlear implant, the pump, right? So from a device engineering, the guy was brilliant. And he really built what appears to be such a simple device, but lots of investment in the technology in terms of how the particles flow. It's breath activated. So the minute you inhale is how it works, and it goes into your lungs in 1 second. The insulin transports across your lungs. And what people don't realize, your lungs are the size of a tennis court. So when you're spreading all that insulin in 1 second, it gets in your bloodstream very quick. So the technology platform, inhaled insulin, was the first one that they invested in. It's the biggest market in the world. But I think when we look at other diseases, we're really focused on pulmonary arterial hypertension. That's a lung disease. People need to take a drug 8 to 10, 12 times a day. Very difficult to live, and we think we can deliver based on the technosphere as the particle brings the drug across the lung. We know we can attach treprostinil to this product, and now it's about just proving the right dose works and when you do put it across the lungs. And so we're really excited about the platform to bring this into other disease states. So that's another big focus of ours as we go forward.
I mentioned your ties to Wharton having gone here as well, and I just get your reaction to being here and being involved in Wharton and what the impact of that is, and how that is kind of played into your professional career.
Look, I went to Philadelphia College of Pharmacy right down the street from Wharton, and I would drive by that building on the corner there for 5 years, saying it would be amazing to go there, and I never thought I would get in. And I applied, I got in, and I actually had already started my MBA somewhere else, so I had to redo everything. And what it really taught me was anything is possible in life. You know, I came up from nothing. I built my own life. I paid for my own college. No one did me any favors. And, you know, Wharton had a ton of entrepreneurs, a ton of people who just built companies, who failed, who succeeded, who turned around. And if you don't try, you don't know. And if you fail, you better get up again and try again. And so you got to be able to take risk and have that confidence. And I think when you go through Wharton, you see the professors, you see the other students, you see the case studies, just a phenomenal learning experience and environment. And, you know, you realize, you know, you got to take risks in life if you want to do well, and you got to be able to put teams together in leadership. And you know, so if I walked away from Wharton, it was really about the entrepreneurial spirit I had. It really helped, you know, catapult that out of me. And then the second part was really just leadership. I mean, Mike Useem and all the professors there in the leadership program were phenomenal. And that's what I've realized in my life is surround yourself by great people who are smarter than you, who work harder, and just put great teams together, and you can make wonders happen. And I never really, you know, I've always invested in the stock market and tried to look at fundamentals of companies. And I think that as I've continued to do well there, I just look at leadership teams more than anything, because great people figure out how to win, and poor leadership teams sometimes really just fall apart. And so really, I think that's probably what I walked away from Wharton with all the case studies you look at, you know, bet on leadership teams more importantly. And that's what I've tried to do here. We've really built our team here and built this company to take into a new direction. Michael,
it's amazing you mentioned Mike Useem, who you know, does this show Leadership in Action here on Thursdays. You know, you're not the first, and I'm sure you won't be the last to give credit to Mike for the work that he's done. Nick is in Joliet, Illinois. Nick, go ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing this morning?
Good.
I'd just like to say I've been following this company for a long time, since the late, great Alfred Mann had run the company, his namesake. It's great to have Mike on board. I also want to give kudos, Mike, to you reaching out to the people of Puerto Rico and Harvey and Houston, donating some Afrezza. That's a pretty honorable thing. Mike, just had a question. What do you say to all the naysayers, you know, that want to harp on the drug being an inhalable product, inhaling powder into the lungs? I see that a lot on message boards, people knocking the company for that, knocking the product. What can you say to them? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Nick. It's a great question. I think a lot of doctors don't understand our data. You know, when you deliver a drug through the lungs, there's a natural worry of what happens to the lungs, right? And that's natural. But what people don't understand is how much data we've invested behind answering that exact question, right? We've studied this in high-density CT scans. We've looked at it for 2 to 4 years. You know, we see no structural damage. We see nothing appearing that gives us pause or concern. The drug doesn't accumulate in your lungs. It doesn't sit in your lungs. And we think that's what's really important is people understand the data as opposed to just make up, you know, theories. You know, you got to look at science when you make decisions. Right. And, you know, we think that's really, really important. But we have enough data out there that when you sit with doctors and you walk them through everything, you can explain the drug is in and out of the body. It's not a cumulative effect, and you see a small decline in lung function. And we have a lung test for that, and that's easy. It takes 1 second that people need to understand. And that's all you're looking for is, you know, if someone had a significant decline in lung function, which we didn't see that in a large percent of people in the trials. Most people do really well. And when you come off the drug, that decline that we saw in the first few months goes right back to baseline. So, you know, we have the data, we can support it, and any doctor that brings up those types of objections, we try to make sure we explain, you know, the balance there is of, you know, the unknowns versus the knowns, and that's important for people to understand.
Michael, we wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Michael Castagna, CEO of Mankind, talking about inhaled insulin. Great to have him on the show.